Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Riancho and it's Thursday, week 5. Apologies for the delay. We had some technical difficulties, but we're good to go. We're all set. Let's find out who we're going to start tonight. We have a game. We have a game tonight between the Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. Who are you going to start and who are you going to sit? All right. We're live. We're good to go. And it is a Rams game tonight, but I am a Charger fan. Got my Charger hat on. Got to rep the team I prefer. In this household, while we don't have anything against the Rams, we're Charger fans. In my house, you're a Charger fan. Anyways, we're going to talk about the Rams game tonight. And apologies again for the delay. Had some weird technical issues. But let's get into it. Let's talk about this matchup. Main story tonight is the injury report. The Niners depth chart is depleted. God damn, this is unfortunate for the Niners. Brock Purdy is out. So are his two wide receivers, Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. We all know about Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle also out. We can make that smaller. Ayuk over here, Kittle over there. There's also one of the backup quarterbacks that's out. So they're rolling with a new third stringer, Jacob Cohen on IR, Trent Taylor on IR. And then on defense, there's also some issues on defense. We all know about Nick Bosa. They also have some defensive ends that are out. Robert Beal, Kevin Givens on IR, Taron Jackson, and then also a few depth pieces in the secondary. The Niners are very, very injured. So it's mainly the offense that's the big problem. In fantasy specifically, you can't start either receiver, and it's basically just the Christian McCaffrey show for the most part tonight. But let's also talk about the Rams defense. The Rams have some injuries as well, but they're not as serious. The Rams, their defense is actually pretty healthy. There's very few players to mention on the defense. There's a cornerback, Ahkello Witherspoon, that is on IR, but beyond that, not very much. On offense, they are without their right tackle, Rob Havenstein. Rob Havenstein is doubtful tonight, not expected to play. And same goes with tight end Tyler Higbee. So the tight end situation is actually something I would like to monitor as we watch the game tonight. I want to see who is the backup, because on the depth chart, it would be Davis Allen. But Davis Allen, not really getting many targets, barely one per game so far. And then Colby Parkinson filled in for Higbee last week and only had 2 targets. They have put the rookie Terrence Ferguson on like a healthy scratch. They've just held him out the last 2 games. He played in the first 2 but didn't get any targets. I want the rookie Terrence Ferguson to get some reps. I have some best ball shares invested in Terrence Ferguson. I think he's a good player, but he's a rookie. I guess he's not ready to play. But without Higbee, there is opportunity, and we'll see what happens. I would like to see Terrence Ferguson, but odds are we're going to get Davis Allen. So that's it for the injury report. The Niners are pretty depleted. The Rams are pretty healthy. And now let's get into the main start-sit discussions. Let's move on to the running back for San Francisco. If Christian McCaffrey as an obvious start. I think if you have CMC, you're pretty ecstatic about the passing game usage. And as long as he remains healthy, he looks like a top 3 running back at worst. He's just so locked into so much volume. And tonight, even with the backup quarterback, he's probably going to get like 10 plus targets yet again. So he's had at least 6 catches in every game this season. I would expect that to repeat. And if you look at his numbers from like a receiving standpoint, it's pretty crazy. Christian McCaffrey, if you only isolated his receiving stats, would be wide receiver 10 in fantasy this season. Obviously, he also has the rushing stats, so he's elite in both aspects. But on the season, he's averaging 133 total yards, and he's just such a lock in the lineup. He's really the only piece of the Niners offense tonight that I think you want. Otherwise, it's just really gross with all the injuries. I don't feel good about it. And I'm excited for when George Kittle comes back. Hopefully in week 6, they have like a full roster minus Ayuk. Ayuk is still going to take a while, but ideally they have a full bevy of weapons starting next week, at least other than Brandon Ayuk. So you're definitely starting Christian McCaffrey. And when it comes to the Rams running backs, I think you're definitely starting Kyren Williams. I actually bumped up Kyren Williams one spot in my ranks overall. In my running back rankings on Tuesday, I had him at 15, also below the tier break behind Derrick Henry. I bumped him up one spot only above Derrick Henry. I think you should be starting Kyren pretty much no matter what tonight. I am kind of worried about Blake Corum. Corum is averaging 5.2 yards per carry, and in the last 2 games, he has at least 8 rush attempts. Last week, he had 9, and then he also had 2 targets. And then in week 2, 3 games ago, Blake Corum also had a touchdown. So the role in LA for the running back is not as much of a workhorse as it has been previously for Kyren Williams. However, if you look at his track record, it's just so obvious he kind of dominates the Niners. You have to start him. So I have him at RB14, and let me tell you, his last 3 games versus San Francisco, since he's been the starter, boy, they've been elite. An average of 22.6 points per game on just shy of 26 touches per game, 3.3 catches per game, 109 yards per game, and also 5 touchdowns in those 3 games. I think a touchdown for Kyren Williams is pretty much guaranteed tonight, unless he gets vultured by Blake Corum. That is ultimately the only fear I have with Kyren and why I'm not ranking him in the top 10. So if you have some of the rookie running backs like Cam Scatterbo, for instance, Omarion Hampton, Ashton Genty, even Quinshon Judkins, who's looking like a stud in Cleveland's backfield, I think they're all more locked into volume this week than Kyren is, and they don't have a backup to worry about. Kyren is feeling a little bit closer to Kenneth Walker than Bucky Irving, as opposed to draft capital. We drafted Kyren more as like a 3rd round pick, right behind Chase Brown, and at least he's not as bad as Chase Brown, but there has been some meat left on the bone. I'm still kind of worried about Blake Corum. So that's why he's my running back 14. Corum, I have listed as running back 37. So not a player I'm starting, but in that low-end flex territory. If you're in a super deep league, there's a lot of teams on bye this week. Maybe there's a scenario where you have to start Corum, but I would definitely roster Blake Corum. If anything happened to Kyren Williams, he's an elite handcuff, would be like a top 12 running back pretty instantly, at least top 15, and he's definitely in an offense you want a piece of. So roster Blake Corum if he's on the waiver wire, but tonight you're only starting Kyren Williams as a top 15 running back in week 5. A must start, in my opinion. Gotta put him in the lineup. So that's it for the Rams running backs. And I mentioned Christian McCaffrey, but I'd also like to bring up the backup running backs for San Francisco. Given all of the injuries they have, I think they're going to use at least Kyle Juszczyk a little bit. Juszczyk has been getting some targets, and while I'm not expecting, 20 touches or anything, I do think he'll get like 3 or 4 targets, and that might be usable, especially near the goal line. They do trust him a decent amount. There's also the element of surprise involved. When the fullback gets the ball, it's not usually accounted for as a number 1 weapon, and that's why I do think he carries some level of value. Now, I would not start him. I rank him behind Blake Corum at running back 39, but he is in my top 40. There's a lot of teams on bye. Perhaps you're forced to find someone off the waiver wire. Maybe you're in a super deep format, but in general, you're not starting him. I do have Brian Robinson outside the top 45 at 47, so he's not listed on the rankings. It's just cropped out. I'm obviously not starting him, but I do want to mention they probably do factor in to the game plan tonight just because they're so banged up. There's so many starters that are just not available. Do you really trust Demarcus Robinson and Kendrick Bourne? They're going to lean on the run a little bit extra, in my opinion. So I'm not going to start him, but I wanted to bring him up. And then when it comes to the quarterback situation, I think you should be starting Matthew Stafford. Stafford is one of my favorite streamers this week at RB9. He's in the top 10, so I am saying he is a good start this week. And if you look at his last 3 games, he's kind of on fire. He's averaging 290 yards per game. He's got Puka after the catch. Adams is pretty much locked in for a touchdown. And then if he hits that deep shot to Tutu Atwell again, then he has elite upside. So not only is averaging close to 300 yards per game, he has 7 touchdowns in the last 3 games as well. I think 2 passing touchdowns is pretty much guaranteed for Stafford tonight. It'd be pretty shocking if that doesn't happen, unless Kyren vultures him for like multiple touchdowns, but he only has 2 turnovers on the season. I don't think Stafford has much risk. And even though he doesn't run the ball, I feel like the touchdowns are just so locked in. If he gets that third, I think you have 20 points available as a ceiling with Stafford. I think the floor is very safe because he's going to go over 250, at least 250 yards, and he will throw for 2 touchdowns minimum. I like Stafford as a very safe play this week. There's some kind of tough matchups for like Bo Nix against Philly, Baker at Seattle. Not ideal. And I think the passing game in LA is one to bet on. I have Stafford as a top 10 quarterback this week. I think you should be starting Matthew Stafford. However, I would not start Mac Jones. I'm really worried about Mac Jones even when all the receivers are healthy. So having to rely on Demarcus Robinson and Kendrick Bourne, not ideal. Maybe McCaffrey just completely pads the numbers in the passing game, but I just don't see it with Mac Jones. Betting on Kyle Shanahan isn't the worst plan, but it's just not the night to night. Their offense isn't there. And I feel like they're going to struggle to score points. It's going to be a rough outing. The Rams defense is pretty legit. Their main weakness is in the secondary. And if now they go against backup third and fourth string wide receivers, then what are you worried about? The Rams defense should play very well. So Mac Jones, I think, will have some turnovers tonight. I think he'll fumble most likely. I do not feel good about Mac Jones. So start Matt Stafford, bench Mac Jones. And now we can move on to the wide receivers, where at least in LA, it's super obvious. You have to start both of the Rams wide receivers. There's just no doubt about it. The most valuable receiving core in the NFL. Puka is the wide receiver 1, and he's been so elite this season. Puka is averaging 139 total yards per game and has 15 targets in each of the last 2 weeks. That's just elite volume. It's unquestioned. He's the guy you want more than anyone else right now. So many receivers have disappointed, especially if you drafted him in like the first 2 rounds. Puka is the only one that you can say undoubtedly has lived up and exceeded expectation. Amon-Ra is also there with him, but Amon-Ra is not giving you the yardage as Puka. Puka is definitely the highest floor option in every format. Clearly wide receiver 1 this week. But I did downgrade Devontae Adams by 3 spots. I'm still telling you to start him no matter what. A top 10 wide receiver needs to be in your lineup. But yesterday I did rank him at number 6. And the more I think about it, it's a short week. Adams is 32 years old. And this game doesn't feel like it'll be super competitive. I could see him get his touchdown and kind of dip a little bit in terms of targets in the second half. I don't know if they're going to heavily overload Adams at the age of 32 in a Thursday night game against a bunch of backups. I just don't expect this to be Adams' best game. Maybe it is. Maybe he's elite, but I feel like the touchdown's locked in. So I view him pretty much identically to Emeka Egbuka. Even in a tough matchup for Egbuka, betting on that touchdown to pad the numbers is a good bet. Same applies to Adams. He's getting like 2 red zone targets every week. He has 3 straight games with a touchdown, and I expect it to be 4. I think Adams is going to score like 12 to 15 touchdowns this year. More often than not, Adams will find the end zone. So he's a must start moving forward. You cannot bench either Rams starting receiver. That's the crux of their offense. But then in San Francisco, it's pretty unfortunate knowing that Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings are unavailable. So we have to rely on backups that we've never really seen perform. It's quite a gamble, honestly, with the Niners receiving core. They're probably just going to lean on McCaffrey and the run game a little extra. I think the tight end Jake Tonjes is also valuable. But if you're super desperate, there are 4 teams on bye. I do rank Demarcus Robinson and Kendrick Bourne inside my top 50. Wide receivers 46 and 47. I suppose you could do worse, but then there's also some options off the waiver wire that I'd much rather have. Like Darius Slayton, I don't think is just valuable this week. He has value rest of season, so I'd rather pick up Slayton off the wire than one of the Niners receivers if I was that desperate. I also think Ayamanor has some upside this week. Not a good matchup, but Ridley is injured, hasn't practiced yet. Ayamanor could score a touchdown like he has twice this season already. And then in Cleveland with Cedric Tillman going on IR, I think Isaiah Bond is actually a decent pickup who will have value for more than just this one game. I don't know what to make of Dylan Gabriel yet, but similar to Jerry Jeudy, I view them kind of similar back-to-back in the rankings. I'd rather go with them off the waiver wire, then scrape the bottom of the barrel with Demarcus Robinson and Kendrick Bourne. Maybe one of them is going to have a great, fantastic game. The Rams secondary isn't elite. However, to know exactly what you're going to get is such a flip of a coin. And honestly, the odds of having any success or even just like one touchdown is less than 50-50. It's much more risky than just a flip of a coin. It's mainly a flip of a coin to see which one of these two gets the most targets. I do not know who will be the top wideout. Last week, Demarcus Robinson had 2 targets and Kendrick Bourne had 1. Whoop-de-doo, who the fuck cares? That's super risky. So I just don't know what you're going to get. There is upside for sure. I think they will have some value, but to tell you that they have like a safe 7-point, 8-point floor, that would be naive. That would be a lie. I would not start either Demarcus Robinson or Kendrick Bourne, but it is a revenge game for Demarcus Robinson because of that narrative. That's why I gave him the tiebreaker. I think maybe he has like 5 extra percent chances to find the end zone just because it's a revenge game. Maybe he finds the end zone, but I wouldn't bet on it. I don't feel safe with either of them. No, thank you with the Niners receivers this week. There are some backup third stringers who could factor in at some point in time, but not enough to rank. Tutu Atwell had 1 reception for like an 85-yard touchdown last week, but otherwise he only has 1 other catch on the season through 4 weeks. I'm not going to start Tutu Atwell. The volume is just not there. If he gives you 1 catch, you would be lucky. So don't press your luck with Tutu. I'm also not going to press my luck with Sky Moore behind Bourne and Robinson. I don't want anyone else, and I don't even want the top 2, so no thanks with them. And then when it comes to the tight ends, I think it's kind of interesting. I actually think there's an argument to be made for Jake Tonges in your starting lineup. Now, I'm not going to do it. I only rank Tonges as my tight end number 20, so really not like a safe play at all, but does factor into the overall like streaming tight end conversation. I think once you enter the top 11 through 20, all these tight ends are kind of like similar this week. You're just hoping for a touchdown. You're betting on volume. I like Tommy Tremble off the wire this week as my favorite streamer. Last week he had, I believe, 8 targets, 7 catches, and a touchdown. There's been some injuries in Carolina, so Tommy Tremble fills in for Jatavion Sanders and gets a very good matchup, top 3 for the position against the Dolphins. The Dolphins have been really bad at stopping opposing tight ends. So if you are going to be desperate and look to the waiver wire, I would go Tommy Tremble. But you could make the same argument as you're making for guys like Zach Ertz, Darren Waller, Brenton Strange, as you can make for Jake Tonges. So even though I have him at number 20, I could argue to put him closer to like number 12 around Darren Waller. Tonjes scored a touchdown last week. He also scored a touchdown in week 1, filling in for George Kittle, and he's been on the field more than the other 2 wide receivers stepping in San Francisco. So it's not like they're not going to throw the ball at all, but to feel safe about it, it's not really worth it. I also think Kittle might be returning next week, so long-term value, what's the point? You got to be super desperate, and if I was going on the waiver wire, like I mentioned, I'd rather go with Tommy Tremble of the Panthers. So not going to start Tonjes, but kind of in the streaming conversation just because the Niners are so depleted. And then other than him, the only other tight end I would even consider in this game would be Terrence Ferguson, but he's been inactive the last 2 games just because Tyler Higbee's out. That's the only reason I think maybe he could find the end zone, but you have to see it. It's really not a safe bet at all. No thanks with either tight end, but at least I did rank Jake Tonges. So that's it for the tight end position. We're coming in on the final stretch here. At defense, I think you should be starting the Rams tonight. There's so many injuries. I think the Rams are a very legit play. At least in my scoring format, the league I have the Rams on one of my teams, they rank top 5 at the position. They've been pretty good. They have a good defense. Their secondary is kind of the only problem. And I don't think the Niners have the receivers to make them pay for it. So I will be starting the Rams tonight. I think you should too if you have them. I have them at defense number 4. And I think they're a very legit play at home. Short week against Mac Jones. The only one to worry about is Christian McCaffrey. I think the Rams will hold San Francisco to less than 20 points. I also expect some turnovers and some sacks. I like the Rams a lot tonight. I think they're a must-start top 5 at the position. I'm not going to start the Niners, though. Even though Robert Saleh has impressed me as defensive coordinator, losing Nick Bosa is a big deal, and I just don't see it. The Rams offense is deadly, and it does not compare to the Jags matchup last week. So do not start the Rams. Do not start the 49ers defense. Don't start San Francisco. But, whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. Definitely start the Rams. The Rams are top 4. Lastly, I would like to bring up the kickers. I feel pretty neutral about both kickers. I do not rank kickers, so in my opinion, if you do not roster either kicker, do not pick them up. I don't think it's worth it. But I think they also have enough value tonight where they're going to finish in like the top 15 or so. And if you're in a 12-team league, that's basically hovering around start consideration. So there's 4 teams on bye. You could do worse. If you roster Eddie Pinheiro of the Niners or Josh Carty of the Rams, then go ahead and start them. If not, leave them on the waiver wire. You don't need to move the needle when it comes to these kickers. I think Carty will have a slightly better game than Pinheiro, but not by a lot. I expect more touchdowns for the Rams. I'm very neutral on the kickers tonight. No like bold stances on who you should bench, who you should start at kicker. But let's bring up the start-sit decisions for tonight. I think if you have the Rams offense, you should be starting them. Puka, always locking your lineup. Same with Devontae Adams. Kyron Williams, also a must start. And this week, I think Stafford and the Rams defense should be in your lineup. Stafford, I have top 10. The Rams defense, I have top 5. And then obviously Christian McCaffrey is a must start. A bad matchup for him. The Rams are the most difficult fantasy matchup you can find in the NFL. Last week, they did hold Jonathan Taylor to less than 100 yards and no touchdown, so that is a factor. They've not given up a single running back touchdown on the season, so maybe McCaffrey is not the best of the season. This might not be his best game of the year tonight, but I still have to start McCaffrey. He's still in my top 4, no doubt about it, in the running back rankings. So those are all of the starts tonight. And then there's only one player I think you could even question if you want in your lineup. It would be Jake Tonjes, low-end tight end streamer, but not that valuable off the waiver wire. Loses value quickly once Kittle returns, which probably happens next week or at worst the week after. I don't think I would pick up Tonjes, but I think he will have some value tonight. If he scores a touchdown, I wouldn't be that surprised. Other than McCaffrey, I can't really envision a touchdown going to anyone other than Tonjes, or maybe Kyle Juszczyk. Anyone else would be very lucky to get an end zone target. I wouldn't bet on it in San Francisco. So beyond that, I think you are benching every other player. Blake Corum and Terrence Ferguson, the only other Rams weapons you might think about, need to stay on the bench, if not the waiver wire. Corum can't be on the waiver wire, but Ferguson I would not pick up. And then everybody else in the Rams offense, in the Niners offense, needs to be benched. Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, I don't trust tonight, so no thanks with them, although there is some upside. Juszczyk needs a touchdown. I wouldn't bet on it. Brian Robinson, probably not going to get enough work to be relevant. And then the Niners defense get a bad matchup against the Rams offense, so no thanks with San Francisco. And then Mac Jones, I doubt you're picking up off the wire. There's 4 teams on bye, but you can probably still do better than Mac Jones in your lineup. So that is it for the start-sit decisions. And I always tell you what I am expecting tonight. This is my final score prediction for this matchup. I believe that the Rams will win. Final score 31-17. I think they're going to dominate in the first half, and then in the second half, in kind of garbage time, the Niners will pick up some steam and, make it a little interesting, but then the Rams will close the door in the fourth quarter. Rams will win by at least 10 points, in my opinion. I have it as a 2-touchdown game tonight. And if you watched my win-loss pick video back on Monday, I did take the Rams minus 5.5 to cover. The line has significantly increased since the injuries. It is up to 8.5. I do not think it is high enough. I think the Rams will win by at least 10 points. I think it will be a 2-score victory. So I would still take the Rams as heavy favorites to cover. It's not as good of a bet. I'm happy I got the number at 5.5 earlier in the week. But based on my prediction, I would hit the over on the point total. I think the Rams offense is going to score at least 4 touchdowns, and I think the Niners claw back enough in the second half to keep it interesting, and I do think the point total goes over 44, but not by a lot. I have it at 48, so it is dependent on the Niners scoring that second touchdown. Not fully convinced it happens, but I think it's more likely than not. Give me the over on the point total. But everyone, at least almost 90% of the audience, is on the side of the Rams. And I forgot to add it in the chat. I forgot to add the poll. I was going to ask y'all, who do you think will win against the spread? Who you have tonight? So I will add that in just a second. But that is my final score prediction tonight, 31-17 in favor of the LA Rams. So that is it for the main broadcast. But I would also like to bring up my entry tonight on Underdog. I've brought this up in the past. This season, we are an Underdog partner. So I do have a code available, and new customers using code BLUNT on signup get $50 in bonus funds after they play their first $5. And I don't have full confirmation, but I believe it's possible that they have updated it. There is a new promo where you get $100, not just 50, but you at least get $50 guaranteed. There's a chance you also get 100, but last I checked, I wasn't 100% sure on that. So you get at least 50 if you play your first 5. And if you're interested in following my entry tonight, I have 2 of them. This is my first one. This one I feel much safer about. I believe McCaffrey will dominate in the receiving department as he has all season. I think he will hit the higher on his receiving yards projection. I think at 53.5, I expect it to be closer to 60 or 70. I think McCaffrey could even go over 100, but to play it safe, we will not make it more difficult. We will take the higher on his baseline projection of 53.5 receiving yards. I think McCaffrey is going to dominate tonight in the passing game. So that, I think, is the safest one. I definitely trust McCaffrey. And then probably the second safest one is Adams to score a touchdown. Money in the bank, it feels like. In week 1, he didn't score, but he has scored a touchdown the last 3 weeks, and he's getting a lot of targets in the end zone. I trust Adams to score a touchdown. So those 2, I think, are virtually locks. And then Blake Corum has been more involved the last couple of games. A minimum of 8 rush attempts in each of the last 2 games. He's also averaging 5.2 yards per carry. So if those trends repeat, if he gets another 8 rush attempts tonight and he maintains 5 yards a carry, then he will put up 40 rushing yards if all of those statistics maintain as accurate. So I'm a little worried about this one. I would not consider this a lock. However, I think the return on investment is worth it. I signed up for this entry too late where I missed the touchdown for Kyren Williams. And even that, he could be vultured by Blake Corum. So I think Corum will get the volume to go over 32 rushing yards. I think he'll give you at least 35, maybe even 40 tonight. I think he will factor in because I think they'll have some garbage time, and I think they will rest Kyren a little bit in the second half. I think Corum will get the volume to hit the higher on 33 rushing yards. I expect that to happen. So let's hope for it, but I don't think it's like the safest prediction you can make. And then Puka, this one also feels like a lock. Puka has been putting up 139 yards per game on the season. More than 95 receiving yards feels like a safe bet. I think he'll go over 100, and even though it's a high number, he just gets so much volume. He's basically half of their offense, it feels like. Puka, I think, will go over 100 in the receiving yards. He just gets too much volume to bet against. So lastly, I always do 5 entries. I think Kyle Juszczyk will get some targets tonight. He's usually a very reliable target in the passing game. So 1 catch, I think, is guaranteed. That second one, I think, is more of like a 60-40 call, and I think it's 60% likely to hit. So I expect Kyle to be involved, and it's possible he gets way more targets just because they're so banged up in the receiving core. Juszczyk is one of the more reliable pass catchers. So I think Kyle will catch at least 2 receptions. It's low enough or I'm willing to bet on it. Those are my 5 entries tonight. If I am correct on all 5, my $5 buy-in will turn into $161.80. And that is I believe, like 30x, something like 29-30x last I checked. So I feel pretty decent about that. I'm kind of worried about the Blake Corum one. And then I guess Kyle Juszczyk is a bit of a gamble, but the other three feel relatively safe. Let's hope for the best. And then I also have a second one as well. I won some lineups during the weekend that involve some bonus cash, so I actually need to use the bonus cash. And then this is my second entry where I feel more risky about it. I feel a bit more bold with this one. This one is a bit more of a degenerate gamble. Not gonna lie, but the payout I think is worth it. $4 brings back 251, and these are the picks I'm making. I think Demarcus Robinson will get some targets. I don't know if he's gonna be good on that volume, but I don't want to worry about how many yards he's gonna put up or how many touchdowns he's gonna score. Odds are he doesn't do very well, but I do think he'll get at least 5 targets tonight, and I expect 3 catches from Demarcus Robinson. So the line is pretty low on that. I think the projection is worth capitalizing on. I think he will go above 2.5 receptions. I also like the Kyle Juszczyk projection again, so I think he will catch 2 receptions. Already brought that one up. Mac Jones, I think, will turn it over, and the Rams secondary isn't exactly their strength. So let's bet on players like Jared Verse to strip, sack, fumble against Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones will turn it over at least once. Let's take the shot that it's a fumble. The price increase on your payout because of this pick specifically was pretty tempting. So it is risky. This one is definitely not a lock at all. I need some good fortune on this one, but I think he will turn it over. Let's assume it's a fumble, higher on half a fumble for Mac Jones. I'm also going to be a little risky here. Jake Tonjes scored a touchdown last week. He has 2 on the season, and they're really without a lot of, weapons. I think Jake Tonjes will hopefully find the end zone. So like I said, this is the riskier bet of the two, and the payout I think is like an extra 67% if this one hits. So I wouldn't recommend trailing this entry if you're trying to play it safe. This one is definitely the riskier one. But of all the wagers on this slip, I think the Stafford 2 passing touchdowns is the way to go. I would have included it on the other one, but when you give a touchdown to Adams, you can't hit the higher on the quarterback projection for touchdowns. So that's why they have to be separate. I love this line on Stafford, but I think it's more likely that Adams scores than Stafford scores twice. So even though both feel very safe, I prefer the Adams one on the safer bet. Stafford should, though, go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. So that's the second entry. I recommend the first one if you are more risk averse and want a more likely proposition to hit. A reminder of that first one: we have CMC higher on the receiving yards, Adams touchdown, Blake Corum 33 or more rushing yards, Kyle Juszczyk with 2 catches, and then Puka with at least 96 receiving yards. I think he goes over 100. So that is it for the main broadcast. We are done officially, and we will get to your questions. I want to add a poll to ask the audience, so bear with me for just a second while I add it to the chat. Who y'all got against the spread? The Rams minus 8.5 or the Niners plus 8.5? That is the question I'm going to pose. Against the spread, who do you think is the correct selection tonight? And now I will pull up your chat questions. Got to set that up real quick. Bear with me for just like a few seconds. There's like I have some program, some extension on Chrome that allows me to like click on your chats and bring them up in the live stream. So I'm just getting that set up right now, but I'll be with you in a sec. Okay. Up at the top, Cliff G is asking, what's my cat's name? Also likes the hat. Thank you, man. I like this hat a lot. Got it on eBay for a good deal. It's like the legit NFL apparel. Very happy with it. But my cat's name, her name is Leia. She's she's up top. She's sleeping. She probably doesn't want me to wake her, so I'll stay on her good side. If she comes to us, I'll happily put her on camera, but for now I'm gonna leave Leia alone. Try and avoid her her being upset with me. Soul Pancakes. Love the username. Love the profile photo. Hey Adam, should I put Woody Marks or Stefan Diggs for a flex on fantasy? Ooh, that's a good question. I like both of them a lot this week. The matchup for Woody Marks is fantastic against the Ravens, though. I think I'd rather bet on Woody against the Ravens. Their defense has just been so bad against the run. It's the best matchup you can find. I think I would go with Woody, but I do think Diggs has a very good game this week. I think Diggs is a very legit flex play. Honestly, let me know who else is in your lineup because I would be trying to start both. But if I could only do one, I would go Woody Marks. I think the matchup's better for Woody Marks. But I also think that the Patriots-Bills game is going to be a shootout, and the Patriots offense actually going to look really good against the Bills. I think both are good starts, top 20 options this week. Michael Kenji says Rams tight ends seem difficult to learn. Yeah, rough situation. I think they should just make the pivot and start giving a bunch of reps to Terrence Ferguson. He has way more upside than everybody else. And if Higbee's not going to be on the field, then why not take a swing? Like, I think they'll win this game relatively easily. They should get their rookie involved. He's a second-round pick. Their offense would be even more deadly if he was a weekly contributor. I wish Terrence Ferguson was involved, but at the moment you can't feel good about betting on either guy. Welcome in, Jamie. Welcome in. Demetrios says, good afternoon. Who do I start at my three flexes? You have Charbonnet, RJ Harvey, Stevenson, and Rico Dowdle if Chuba Hubbard is out. Or do I pick up one of the San Francisco wide receivers tonight? Okay, so you have three flex options. Boy. I mean, obviously, if Chuba is out, then Rico would be a good start against Miami. So hold on to him as a tentative option, but I'm not convinced Chuba's going to miss. Last I checked, Chuba is going to be okay, but he was questionable last week. I think he'll start in week 5. I would put RJ Harvey in there. RJ looked really good. Charbonnet has a really tough matchup against the Bucks. Very touchdown dependent, doesn't catch passes. I think I would bench Charbonnet. And then I think I would start Ramondre Stevenson as well. And then the only question would be, do I pick up the Niners receivers instead of Rico or Sharbs? I don't think they have any value after this week. And so for that reason, I would leave them on the waiver wire. I think I would roll with Charbonnet as the third flex play. My preference in order would be RJ Harvey, then Ramondre, then Charbonnet. And maybe you're only asking for one, but it sounds like you're asking for 3. But if Chuba Hubbard doesn't play, then Rico Dowdle would go well above Zach Charbonnet. So don't pick up the Niners receivers, just roll with the running backs. But obviously it doesn't feel good. Not ideal at all. Cody Welsh says, should I drop Keon Coleman for Chris Olave? Yes, you should pick up Chris Olave 100%. Too much volume for Olave to leave him on the waiver wire. Jamie says, I have a tight end start sit dilemma for a dynasty team. Start 2 with Andrews, Hockenson, Mason Taylor, Waller, Strange, and Theo Johnson. All right, so you have a lot of options. I'm worried about the Vikings offensive line against the Browns, so I want to avoid that game in London this week. I'm going to bench Hockenson for sure. Mason Taylor had a really good matchup last week. It's not the same this week. I'm going to bench Taylor. Brenton Strange is actually getting a lot of volume. I actually feel decent about Brenton Strange, but the Chiefs matchup's not the best. Waller, I think, does have a legit role. Andrews, an interesting play, but with Cooper Rush, who knows? I think I would go Waller and Strange, but last I checked, my rankings I actually think do have Andrews the highest. I think I would go Andrews and Strange. But it's tempting to put Waller in as well. I think I would give it one more week with Waller, but it's a toss-up. Honestly, if Jatavion Sanders stays out, I would go with Tommy Tremble. I'm gonna rank tight ends tomorrow, but I actually feel really high on Tommy Tremble in Carolina against the Dolphins. That's where Mason Taylor dominated last week. The Dolphins are actually a really good matchup this week, so I would go Tommy Tremble off the wire and then start Brenton Strange and Mark Andrews if you're gonna not go with Tommy Tremble. But Andrews and Strange would be my preference, I think. Jamie says, I'm kind of liking Corum this game. If the Rams go up ahead, then Corum can see 10, 12 touches. Yeah, I like that projection on him, but I would expect Kyron to still be like the main guy. We'll see what happens. But I don't think Corum is a terrible option if there is a bunch of garbage time. Bet a Kyron touchdown and also Adams touchdown for tonight. Yeah, that feels very likely to happen. Soul Pancakes says, I drafted Puka as my first pick. It was definitely worth the pick. Definitely worth it. Cody agrees. Cashfee in here says, I'm going to lose in my matchup like 100%. I'm tempted to F around and start DeMarcus Robinson. I mean, if you really believe you're going to lose, then why not if you want someone to root for tonight? But you can probably do better. You can most likely pick up Isaiah Bond or even Darius Slayton, I think would be a better option. Jamie says, stash Brashard Smith in deeper leagues. Niners backfield to get ahead of the game. I would definitely stash Brashard Smith. Cashfee says Mac Jones is just as good, if not better, of a start for fantasy. He's going to check it down to CMC and short passes to Tonjes. Yeah, I think they'll move the ball. I don't think they're going to be super effective, but I don't think they're going to be like, inept. It's not going to look like the Bengals on Monday night, but I don't think they win. It's definitely not going to pick them to win. Cashfee says B-Rob might have a bigger role tonight. I doubt it. I would expect Juszczyk to maybe get some more passes, but you never know. It's possible. Bob Hope says, should I start Adams or wait for Myers or Sutton? Definitely start Adams. And then I would go Sutton over Myers. But Adams, I think, is the safest bet for a touchdown. Sutton gets Quinyon Mitchell and the Eagles, so I'd rather go Adams than Sutton. Cashfee says CMC in a short week is a risk of an injury. I was kind of contemplating that as well. Like, how much do you really want to push it with McCaffrey tonight on the short rest? But I think, at least in the first half, while it is competitive, they'll give it a go. If the game breaks open and they're, like 3-4 touchdowns behind, then yeah, in the second half they'll bench McCaffrey. But I just don't expect much production from B-Rob. Cashby also saying, who knew Adams is going to be this good? Oh wait, this guy. Yes, I was very high on Adams, but we were correct on Adams this year. Yes, the Calvin Ridley situation is in dire straits. Calvin Ridley fucking sucks right now. Ridley's bad. Adams is good. Saying Zach Ertz needs to be moved up. No Terry, no Noah. I think Terry is going to suit up. Terry is looking better. Debo's injured. I didn't see that. Daniel's going to be just fine. If there are these injuries you're talking about, then yes. But I think Terry's going to play. Last I checked, it sounds like Terry's trending in a right direction. It's still not guaranteed that he plays, but I think Terry will suit up. I think Debo will suit up. But Ertz in that streaming conversation, definitely a touchdown option for sure. I was tempted to put him higher, but I like Tremble's matchup a little more. Fantasy Woat says Woody Marks or Rashad White. Woody Marks, 100%. But if Bucky does not play, that's a good question. I'd go Rashad in that instance. Yeah, I think I would stick with Rashad. The Bucks offense is better, but Woody should still be very good. Woody would still be top 20, but I would go Rashad over Woody Marks. Definitely start the Rams defense tonight. You don't think they're scored 17? I expect one touchdown, and then the second one I could also see. Like I think McCaffrey will find the end zone probably. I think he snaps that touchdown drought that the Rams defense offers, and then the second touchdown I think will go to Jake Tonjes or Kyle Juszczyk. I think they get 2 touchdowns. I believe in 2 touchdowns. Jamie likes the prediction, but has it a little lower. Thinks that the Rams will only score 3 touchdowns, 27 points. I think they put down 4 touchdowns tonight. Dev likes the bet tonight. The promo code is legit. $50 in bonus funds just to play 5. That's pretty decent. That's pretty sweet. And then maybe I'm going to pull up the email I got. I saw something where they were floating around 100, but don't hold me to that. I don't know how long it was. I don't know if it was temporary or if it's already active already. I've been kind of avoiding my point of contacts messages sometimes with Underdog. But yeah, that's what this email says. I'm looking at it right now. New customers using code BLUNT. Play 5 and get 100 in bonus funds. Even better. Use code BLUNT on sign up. The link should be in the description. I believe it's in the description. Jamie, I feel bad. I did not have time. I was so tired on Sunday. I should get back to your email though. I would like to set up something. I would like to be in at some time. But if the FF Garage is there as well, then definitely love to join. But apologies for not answering your email. I will get to that maybe later today. Cashby saying, how's he going over 100 yards against the Rams defense that knows there's no one else on the offense? I assume you're asking about McCaffrey. I don't have him going over 100 receiving yards. Probably goes over 100 on the game, but receiving at 55. I think I like that. Feels too safe. Nah, man, that one feels like a lock. I wouldn't be afraid of that one. Cliff G says Walker or AJ Brown full PPR. Shit. The Bucks matchup is tough. I think I would stick with AJ Brown. I think you have to. In full PPR, you got to favor the receiver a little bit. The matchup is tough for Kenneth Walker this week. It's very close. It's very close. God. Only because it's full PPR, I think I'd go AJ Brown, but I don't feel good about it. Against Pat Surtain, nah, I think I'd go Walker. Fuck. That's a really tough one, man. That one's fucking close. Good luck there. I think I would go Walker. The Bucks are actually vulnerable against pass-catching running backs, and Charbonnet isn't catching many passes. So I think Walker will actually get some volume in the passing game that factors in full PPR. But AJ Brown's so boom bust, like that's the only reason. Like to avoid the 5-point, 3-point game from AJ Brown, I'll just take the higher floor with Walker. But if you told me one of these guys puts up 25 points, it would probably be AJ Brown. But I think the safer floor would be Walker. Dev, very good point here. They know he's the guy every week. Indeed. Can't stop Christian McCaffrey. Soul Pancakes is in. He's going to follow our first entry. I like the first one more than the second one. The second one, I just have a bunch of bonus cash that is going to expire in the next 2 weeks. So I'm feeling a little bit more willing to put it down. But the second one feels kind of risky. I'm not going to lie. Let me see if I can get the first one back up on the screen. Yeah, this is our first entry. McCaffrey, 54 or higher receiving yards. Adams touchdown. Corum, 33 rushing yards. Juszczyk, 2 catches. And then Puka, 96 yards. That is the entry that Soul Pancakes would like to tail. That's the one I like more. Cashby, I understand your concerns on the Rams defense in this matchup, but what makes the Rams so deadly, like, they're good. They're one of the best in the league, but they just don't let anyone score a touchdown. I think that's where I'd be worried about McCaffrey. If he doesn't find the end zone, I wouldn't be shocked. But I think he will give you a lot of yards. He is their entire offense. Soul Pancakes likes the Rams, -8.5. And yeah, so far, the poll's been up for like what, 10 minutes now, and 93% of y'all who have voted are on the Rams minus 8.5. You think they're going to cover? Should be a 2-score game, most likely. Whose house? Rams house. Take a smoke break. That's a very good call. That's definitely what I would like to do. I agree, Jamie. Let's do that. Good call. I use OBS. And one thing that's like annoying with OBS is when I'm having like problems with it, when I get them sorted out, it like unlinks my camera. And then the only like method I've found to remedy it quickly is if I restart the computer. Like maybe there's another way to do it that I just haven't figured out. But if I restart the computer, then it's all fine. So I was ready an hour ago when this live stream was supposed to start, and then I had the camera disconnect and had to restart the computer. That takes like 4 minutes, and then there's like slow loading going on. So apologies for the slow start when it wasn't when it was scheduled to start. I was not ready. Apologies on that, but sometimes it just happens. But Alexander with a start sit question. You have Keenan, Olave, or Sutton in the flex. Commanders matchup is really good. I'm going to go with Keenan Allen. Hard to bench Sutton, but against Quinyon Mitchell, that matchup's more of a downgrade. And Keenan feels very reliable for a touchdown. I would go Keenan. That's why I can't go Olave. The touchdown for Olave is very rare to hit, but I like his matchup a lot against the Giants. I think all three are actually top 15, top 16 receivers this week. I think I would start all three if I can. You must have a very loaded roster if those three are your flex decisions. I like all three in my top 15. So it's splitting hairs. If you have a gut feeling on one or the other, I have them in the same tier. So be my guest. Start whoever you want. But I have Keenan at wide receiver 11. I have Sutton at wide receiver 13. And then I have Olave at 15. I would go Keenan of the three, but keep the bias in mind. I kind of have a preference. It's pretty obvious. Soul Pancake says, I'll take Woody on flex. I have Puka and Johnston for receivers. Okay. Yeah, you're in very good shape. Good luck, man. Good luck there. Yeah, he probably doesn't need much luck. 3-1. Shit the bed and didn't play Dallas Goedert and had Packers at defense. Ooh, the Packers defense was a bad call last week. I had Chargers and Packers in the subscriber league, and I stuck with the Chargers, and I only won by like 3 points in the subscriber league. It was very close. My final score was like 134 to 130, and if I had played the Packers, I would have lost by like 10. Damn, the Packers were brutal last week. Bummer on the Packers, bro. Damn, that one was sad. But Goddard's looking like he's the guy in Philadelphia. It's weird. Their offensive coordinator has flipped everything around. Goddard is a great play right now. But we buy homes near you. Welcome in once again. Non-PPR, 6-point passing touchdown. Start one quarterback, Kyler or Danny Dimes. 100% give me Danny Dimes. 100%. Against Las Vegas? Hell yeah. I know Kyler gets Titans, the Tennessee Titans this week, but I don't trust Marvin Harrison that much. McBride doesn't score touchdowns. Give me Danny Dimes all day at QB. I would much rather go Danny Dimes. Also has rushing value. Give me Danny Dimes. Who scores the most points playing against Josh Allen this week? Need upside. I think the only quarterbacks I'd rather have than Danny Dimes this week would be Josh Allen, of course, Drake May, and Justin Fields. I think Danny Dimes is a top 5 quarterback this week. I don't love the matchup for Hurts against Denver, so I'm not going to put Hurts in the top 5 this week. I don't love Daniels against the Chargers coming off a knee injury. I don't think he'll be his best self against the Chargers. So the obvious names that should be higher, I think, are lower. And then Lamar's out. So I think Danny Dimes is a top 5 quarterback this week. I would go Danny Dimes. Kyler has had no upside. Kyler's just been like a 15 point, 16 point floor. No upside with Kyler all day. Give me Danny Dimes. But also asking non-PPR flex one, Jordan Mason, T. Higgins, Stephon Diggs, or Hendy. I want to go Henderson, but I'm going to go Stephon Diggs here. Even in non-PPR, I think I would go Stephon Diggs. I think the touchdown and the revenge spot will be there for Stephon Diggs. I want a piece of the Patriots-Bills game, especially on the Patriots side of the ball as well. I think the main guys will put up good points. I think Diggs is a very good start this week, top 20. And then if Henderson just had more volume, I would say Henderson for sure. But Ramondre is still relevant. I don't know exactly what Henderson will offer. I think Henderson could have a great breakout game, but I also feel really safe that Diggs really contributes. I think Diggs is a very good play this week. Give me Stephon Diggs to get a touchdown. Henderson, more of a receiving back, and in non-PPR, it's pretty relevant for both. I think Diggs gives you more yards and a touchdown than Henderson. I don't trust Higgins. I don't trust Jordan Mason against the Browns this week. Also, the Vikings offensive line is really, really depleted. Stephon Diggs, I think, is the play. Jamie is asking, Deep Dynasty League, Tommy Tremble is already rostered. That makes a lot of sense. But yes, hit the like button. If y'all have not, hit that like button for me. And subscribe if you've been watching so far. If I've helped you make those lineup decisions, do me a favor and hit the like button. Cashy says Terry is out. Already out. I did not see that today. Noah Brown is out. That I don't think it really matters too much. Terry being out, that's a big factor. So yes, Zach Ertz will be moving up, assuming Terry is indeed out. Michael says Bucky's in a boot. How's he going to play? Yeah, last I checked, Bucky was getting that checked. So Rashad is probably going to be the start this week. Rashad has top 15 value. Rashad's a must start in Tampa if Bucky's not suiting up. Jamie says, I've seen on 11 sites Terry has been ruled out for Washington already. Gotcha. I am behind on that update. A-Rod says, I know this isn't about tonight's game, but I'm really struggling with this decision and would like your opinion. Start Jaden Daniels or Justin Fields. The Cowboys are so bad on defense. It's also a revenge game for Justin Fields against Matt Eberflus. You have to go Justin Fields. I think any quarterback against Dallas is like just such a lock in the lineup. I would go Justin Fields. Daniels coming off the knee injury. We don't know how much he's going to run. Last year when he was banged up with the chest injury, he didn't run as much either. He fell from like quarterback 3 last year when healthy to like quarterback 17 when he was recovering from the chest injury. So in this game, he's going to be recovering from a knee injury. I do not know exactly how often Jaden Daniels will run the ball. I know for a fact Justin Fields will run like crazy. Fields also gets a way better secondary opposite him. The matchup's so much better against Dallas versus the Commanders. I know you drafted Jaden Daniels super high, and it feels strange to bench him, but based on his health, I would go Justin Fields this weekend. I think Fields is a top 5 play. I love Justin Fields this week. Must start, in my opinion. Soul Pancakes is following us. Let's go. Love it. Jonathan likes the hat. Bolt up, baby. Yeah, it really pops on the camera. The blue really shines. I'm very happy with this purchase. Thank y'all. eBay, the place to go. Because sometimes I'll like be strolling around, and like I've been wanting a Chargers hat for a while. And sometimes I find some in the stores and like they just don't look like the best quality. Like, like they're just not the legit NFL apparel. So I was like, I wanted, if I'm going to buy it, I want to do it right. I'm going to the Chargers game this Sunday and I wanted some merch. So I went on eBay and I got as like legit as I could for $25. I'm very happy with this hat. Thank y'all. Michael Kenji says -5 points with the Packers defense hurt when my opponent got 20 points from Detroit. Ooh, a 25-point gap at defense. That's brutal, bro. That was a shocker. Like, no one expected the Packers to give up 40 points. That one was insane. I'm so glad I started the Chargers last week. Such a good call. I saved myself 15 and a half points by starting the Chargers over the Packers. Jamie says, I'm debating Danny Dollars or Dart for my Superflex spot. I'm locking in Fields as my starter. I don't think we've seen enough from Dart as a passer. I would go Danny Dimes. The Colts should have won last week against the Rams. The Colts are going to crush the Raiders. There's no defense from Las Vegas that can stop Daniel Jones. I would go Daniel Jones 100% over Jackson Dart. Like, I know Dart runs it as well, but like, I just wouldn't do it. I trust Danny Dimes against Las Vegas so much more. Dart is still like a variable that, you think will work out. He definitely has upside because of all the rushing stats, but like, it's just not a lock. It's just not. But Jordan Mason Glazer is asking White, Jordan Mason, or Woody. We're going to go Rashad White. Not only are we going to go Rashad White, we're also going to go Woody over Jordan Mason. Mason is the third option of these three this week. So I apologize, Jordan Mason Glazer. I'm not going to glaze you, boy. But give me Rashad, assuming Bucky is out. And then I would also still go Woody Marks above Jordan Mason. The Browns defense scares the shit out of me this week, especially given that the Vikings offensive line is like decimated with injuries. There's like 4 offensive linemen that are missing, or at least in jeopardy this week for Minnesota. I would not trust Jordan Mason, not against Cleveland, not at all. So that would be the last chat comment that I've caught up with. So I'll stay on for a little bit, but we'll just keep it casual mainly. What I want to do actually, I want to do one of the daily drafts on Underdog. So give me a minute to set that up. And we'll do one of those. We'll try and incorporate tonight's game in that as well. I think there's still like another half hour where you can draft those. But a reminder, if you are new to Underdog, if you would like to use promo code BLUNT, play your first $5 and get $50 in bonus funds when you sign up using code BLUNT. All right. We can minimize that. And then get this set up. There we go. Okay, I'll do one of these Underdog drafts before I sign off. I think we're going to hop into the Primetime Palooza. Let's take a look at our options. So for $10, this Primetime Palooza, how many people get paid? Because there's only 33 minutes left and it's not full. It's only halfway full. So you can capitalize on a much higher chance of getting paid when it's not full. Like the top 550 people will get $20 guaranteed. So the odds are much higher given only half of the people are in here. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do. Because the other one is $100 and it's much closer to being full. This one is $25. Let me see all their options though. We got the Sunday main slate. There's a lot of variables there. I'm going to pass on that one right now, maybe later. Another Sunday main slate. All these are Sundays. Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. I'll probably do that one later on, but not right now. Yeah, let's stick to Primetime Palooza. Thursday Night Football, the London game, and Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football is the one you really want. The Rams offense tonight, and maybe CMC, obviously, but then the Bills and Patriots game is going to go off. So let me check the chat real quick. I'll try and catch up if I missed anything. Wooly says start 2, Scadaboo, Hall, A-Chain, and Judkins. Good problem to have. I'm going to start A-Chain against Carolina. Typically, that's a good matchup with no Tyreek Hill. I expect more targets for A-Chain. I'll keep starting A-Chain. And then Judkins is really tempting, but I think Scadaboo has a better matchup this week, and Scadaboo is just like so locked in to a shit ton of targets and receptions. I would go Devon A-Chain and Cam Scadaboo. I'm going to bench Breece Hall. Even in a good matchup, Breece Hall just doesn't score touchdowns, so I'll pass on him. Limited upside there. And then Judkins is really good, but I think Scadaboo has more receiving volume. I would go Scadaboo. Looks like Jamie says A-Chain and Hall. Jamie likes Breece, but I just worry about Breece never finding the end zone. So I would go with Scadaboo and Devon A-Chain. That is my preference. I really like Cam Scadaboo this week. A very good matchup for Cam Scadaboo. Jamie says, I can send you a free Chargers jersey. I have promo hookup and always send out free jerseys to my content creator. I mean, that'd be pretty dope. I will chat with you in that email. I will get back to you in that email. I apologize for not getting back to you. But Alex Desio says Knicks or Stafford. Eagles matchup kind of tough. It's very close, but tonight I do rank Stafford higher. I would go Stafford. I have Stafford at 9, and then I have Bo Nix at like 12. Let me... Here are my quarterback rankings this week. I have Stafford at 9 and Bo Nix at 11. It's very close. Only 2 spots between them, but I would go Stafford tonight. I would go with Matthew Stafford. Number 9, Bo Nix at number 11. Give me Matthew Stafford tonight. Okay. We are going to hop into the Primetime Palooza. $10 entry. If anyone wants to join, you can. And I'll stay with you for another, 15, 20 minutes while we do this. Hopefully it fills quickly. Oh, yeah, I just filled it. Okay. We get pick 3. So we're not going to get CMC or Puka. Most likely that's not going to happen. But a reminder of how this works. You need to start 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 receivers, 1 flex, and 1 tight end. You only draft 6 rounds, and you have to draft at least 1 of each of them. So we will see what happens here, but I think I'm going to go James Cook over Josh Allen, to be honest with you. I think I'd rather lock in, the best running back. And the matchup for McCaffrey is actually pretty bad. So I'd rather go James Cook over McCaffrey straight up this week, even though it's very close. My preference is actually James Cook. If I can get Puka, I'll consider it. But I don't think I can get Puka. All right. The draft is underway. Jamie thinks Hall has tons of upside. He does. He just doesn't score touchdowns. That's the only problem. Okay, I'm on the clock, and it did go as expected. So knowing that this team after me has 2 picks, I'm going to leave them Josh Allen, and I'd rather have my preference at running back. I'm a little worried about Blake Corum, so I'm going to pass on Kyron. I like Quinshon Judkins a lot, actually, but I'm going to go with James Cook. feel safer with James Cook. And then with my next pick, I'm going to take a quarterback. I am extremely high on Drake May this week. And in this slate, you have to draft 4 quarterbacks. I think the fall off after May is like insane. I think May actually has a chance to outscore Allen. I doubt it, but I want a shot at a top 2 quarterback. I think it's the only way you have like the potential to win. And if you're telling me I can get, if I could have had Allen and James Cook at the 4 or 5 picks there, I feel like that is the winning recipe, but I don't think you can get both. And then I really don't expect Drake May to circle back around. So I will take Drake May. And then we need 2 receivers. I'm hoping I get it. Yes, we can stack him with Diggs. I did not want Jordan Mason. It's a terrible matchup for Mason this week. I'm going to take Stephon Diggs. I think Diggs has a great game. And then I'll let the Allen drafter have his stack. They take Hunter Henry. Damn it. All right, I'll take Kincaid then. I wanted a double stack for Drake May, but instead we get Kincaid. That's okay. Kincaid can still be really good, can still outperform Hunter Henry, but I would have preferred Hunter Henry. Okay, we have 2 picks left. We need another receiver. Not a ton of options, though. I'd be okay with Addison. I don't really want Judy or I don't want to bet on Dylan Gabriel. I'd prefer to take Addison, but I was happy to get a decent tight end there. I could see Jake Tonjes having value. But probably not going to take 2 tight ends here. I don't think either of these teams can even take Travion, so that's going to be nice. I'm going to go Travion because the team after me doesn't have running back yet. And then we'll grab a receiver with the last pick. Either Addison or Keon Coleman. Addison goes. I will take Travion. I know the team after me needs to take a running back, so get ahead of that. Give me my boy. And then I am locked into a receiver here. I have no other option. I think I'm going to go Keon. Not a good matchup for him, though. Honestly, that's actually not ideal. Fuck. Let's mix it up. Let's get someone that is going to be less rostered. I'm going to go Josh Palmer. I think that Bills-Patriots game is going to be so explosive. I might be very inaccurate on Josh Palmer, but Keon Coleman is going to go up against Christian Gonzalez, and I just don't like that matchup for him. So let's be a little different. That might cost me, though. That one may have been a bad choice. But let's mix it up. Let's be a little different. Let's do it. So that's the roster. We're betting on Drake May, James Cook, Travion Henderson, Stephon Diggs, Josh Palmer, and Dalton Kincaid. I like it. The Palmer pick, though, very risky. Otherwise, I feel good about it. Bryce is asking what defense this week? Texans, Browns, Colts. We're going to go Browns. Browns in London benefit tremendously from a depleted Vikings offensive line. You're going for the safe floor. I don't need a lot of upside for the defense. Then yeah, definitely go with the Browns. Because the Texans can still get torched by Derrick Henry, and then the Colts defense Genty and Bowers are still, kind of deadly sometimes. That game could be a shootout. Even though the Colts should win comfortably, I think there could be a lot of offense there. The Browns-Vikings game is going to be extremely low scoring. I trust the Browns there quite a bit. Give me the Browns defense this week. Jamie, later. Hope you have a good weekend. And then Swavey JP, 2-2, 2 flex. Quarterback Kyler. Running back CMC, Jacobs, Judkins, Woody, Harvey, Sharbs. Okay, so we need 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. Tight end Hunter Henry, and he moves. Okay, so our running backs, we're obviously taking McCaffrey this week. Josh Jacobs is on bye. I'm going to go Quinshon Judkins over Woody Marks. Great matchup for Woody, but I trust the volume for Judkins a little bit more. I'd like to see it one more time from Woody before I put him above Judkins. Judkins has been very good. So with Jacobs on bye, give me Judkins and CMC at running back. And then your 2 receivers would be JSN 100%. London and Rome are on bye. You have JMO and Travis Hunter. You're starting JMO. And then your flex would be Woody Marks. So you're starting CMC, Quinshon Judkins, and Woody Marks. And then your receivers are JSN and Jamison Williams. Good luck, man. Good luck. Anonymous is asking, should I drop Seattle defense to play the Rams defense tonight? I don't think I would want to drop the Seahawks defense. Seahawks, I think I would still hold tight on. I have them top 15, but the Rams are way better this week. The Rams are also pretty legit as well. I would be willing to do it, but I don't know if I would feel desperate to do it because the Seahawks are a defense I want to roster rest of season. Their schedule's pretty good. They're very talented. I think I'd rather just stick with Seattle. I think they'll keep you afloat, and I don't think they have like that much more upside than the Rams. I think I would stick with Seattle, but obviously their matchup's way more difficult against the Rams. This week I'd rather start the Rams, but rest of season I think I'd rather have the Seahawks. Jamie says Vikings, Cardinals, Giants, Colts, Saints all over Seattle Rams this week. I think the Rams are a very good defense this week. We disagree. You have them at 17, but you have them at 13. The Seahawks, I think you're in the right vicinity. I think the Vikings, Cardinals, very good starts. The Giants, I think, are actually a bit less appealing, but not bad. Colts are okay. Saints also kind of decent, but I think the Rams are better than the rest of them. I would rather go Rams. You know what? I'm going to do one more of these drafts. There's only 20 minutes left. I'm going to do one more. Anonymous, I agree with you. I think it's worth biting the bullet. Sorry, I had the live chat muted. But, okay, one last Primetime Palooza, and then I will sign out. This will be the last one. And then I'll see y'all later. Yeah, I want the $10 one. All right, if you want to join me, you can hop in, but I was the last person in this lobby, so it's already full. Pick 3 again. So we'll mix it up. We'll be a little bit different this time, but it feels like I'm missing out a lot by losing James Cook. I think the drop-off from Josh Allen to Drake May is not that significant. I think there's actually a chance that May could outscore Josh Allen. But the drop off from James Cook to Kyron, I think, is pretty significant. Um, yeah, I don't feel good about that. So I think I'm still going to go James Cook at 3 instead of Josh Allen. If anyone's in here with me, which I highly doubt based on the timing of it, but if you're in this draft with me, let me know. And we get stuck in the same situation. CMC and Puka already off the board. So I'll go James Cook. I'll take James Cook. And then if this team passes on Allen, that'd be kind of crazy. So as expected, that's who they take. I kind of want to take Devontae Adams and risk getting Drake May back around. But if I'm gonna do that, then I have to pivot to Stafford, and I think that's a bad call because Stafford has no rushing value, and it's a division game. It may not be like that elite. I really want to draft Adams here or Jefferson because last time we kind of got screwed on receiver. But I'm gonna take my chances. I think having the elite quarterback is just the way to go on this. I might be totally wrong, but it's my preference. I'm going to stick to it. If one of those two receivers falls back to me at pick 11, Jefferson or Adams, I'd be so happy about it. But nope, that's not what happens. Rob Rhodes takes both of them. Receiver is more important, and I'm hoping that team does what didn't happen for us last time. I'm going to take Stephon Diggs here. The revenge game for Diggs and the Drake May stack. And then I'm hoping I can get Hunter Henry on the way back. That's what I really want. But this team is looking very similar. It's probably going to be the same, but then I'll probably mix up that last pick. I probably won't go with Josh Palmer this time. I wanted the team to be different, but we're in the 3 slot, so it is what it is. Nope, they do take Hunter Henry. Bummer. Nah. I'll still go Kincaid. We need to start a tight end. I think Kincaid's just way more valuable than Jake Tonjes. The tight end room gets pretty gross after Kincaid and Henry are off. Had I taken Henry instead of Diggs, I would not have gotten Diggs to come back around. I feel very safe to assume that. But Addison does go. Sadly, that is what happens. So we will repeat and go Travion. I think he's the best bet here. Just so much upside. And then we'll stick in the Patriots-Bills game. And we need a second receiver. We're going to take... Oh, Keon was already taken. That's a bummer. Then maybe I go Kendrick Bourne or Demarcus Robinson. To took Ramondre. Who's he going to go with? Judy? I didn't want Judy. The Vikings secondary is really good. You know, I could go Isaiah Bond. That'd be interesting. Oh, he's not even listed? Dang. What the? That's crazy. That's some bullshit. I'll go DeMarcus Robinson. Whatever. The receiver depth on this team might be the problem again. But I think Diggs has a good game. I think the running backs have an amazing game. And if you're not getting Puka, Jefferson, or Adams, and the only one I really want on my roster would be like Addison or Shakir, other than Diggs. Like, it's kind of just the nature of being in this 3 slot. It's hard to get a good value at receiver. Because I would either need to reach on Jefferson and Adams and then just not get May. And that's not what I want to do. All right. That's it. Reflect the Sun is in here. Welcome in, Reflect the Sun. We got a lot of mods at the moment. But asking, good to see you. I'm 0-4 and a MASH unit. Lamar, Neighbors, Kittle, Pearsall, all out. What a year. Picking up May at least. Good luck with the draft tonight. Appreciate you. May, I think, is going to be phenomenal this week. I think May is a top 3 quarterback this week. Love Drake May. And then Jonathan asking, subscriber league video incoming. You know, I have been meaning to get that done. It should. I think it's about time, for sure. Yeah, in the next week, whether it's recapping this week's matchups or previewing next, in the next 7 days, there will be a subscriber league update video. You can bet on it. All right, that's going to be it for me. That's it for us today. And whoops, we don't need that. Don't need that. Bob Hope with one last question. Adams or wait for Sutton/Myers? I would go Adams. Give me Devontae Adams over Cortland Sutton and Jacoby Myers. I think we answered your question earlier, but maybe you weren't here. Yeah, give me Adams over those two. All right, that's it for me. Later, everyone. Peace out. Goodbye.